Getting married this year, organizing a corporate function with all the trimmings. Who is Mike Jones Event Planning? Who? Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. Who is Mike Jones Event Planning? Is your premier event coordinating and concierge firm. Who is Mike Jones Event Planning? Coordinates and caters events of all sizes, specializing in graduation parties, theme weddings, bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, and Kwanzaa. Who is Mike Jones Event Planning? Wants to make sure that your event goes off without a hitch, and that means chopped and screwed planning ahead of now. So put them H-Town haters on Front Street. Remember, back then they didn't want you. Now you're hot. They are all on you to make all your dreams come true. Call Who is Mike Jones Event Planning at 281-330-8004. Today's episode of Adapt and Respond is sponsored by Benjamin Banneker College, the only HBCU with a BBW, Big Bad Bachelors in What It Do, Pretty Mama. At the BBC, you can erect your education with such foundational skills as mackin', what's crack lacking, is that your man or just your baby's daddy, and accounting. At the BBC, students gain the knowledge and experience to get money, rock ice, write pros, new money, new whips, new clothes, keep money everywhere we go. So if you're about trying to get this paper and get your degree, walk on down to the BBC and bring cash. Now, let's get started with the show. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year-round. If you're into that, consider joining the more than 208,000 subscribers to Adapt and Respond, a college football podcast. And if you like the podcast on audio, on Apple and Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. Let me know what you think about that. We also are always going to do stuff here on YouTube, and my goodness, guys, we have so much planned for you going into this college football season. The show is about to get a lot bigger. As you've noticed, we've had more subscribers, which allows us to do more things. Now, got to get more of y'all to watch these things more regularly, and that's one of the things we're going to be working on here. Longer shows, perhaps a little less content, I know, but the schedule that I have been working with for the better part of, since being on here, doesn't really fit what we're trying to do with the show. And you're going to hear more about this as we get into preseason, as we get into college football, but I promise it's a good thing. It's a better thing. There's more hands around this helping make this show go, which means we get to go deeper and longer, penetrate more topics, right? With having fun in between. On this episode of Adapt and Respond, I want to talk about winners and losers in recruiting, particularly the 2027 cycle. Where does Texas, Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan land? We're talking about winners and losers going into what I think is going to be basically the end of summer recruiting, because you go into preseason camp next week with Big 12 Media Days. Speaking of Big 12 Media Days, I want to talk a little bit about burning questions I have for coaches, specifically as we head into the 2 days of Big 12 Media Days, which is going to be Tuesday and Wednesday. Look for shows around each one of those days, talking through the biggest storylines coming out of those days. And I think that we're going to have a lot of fun with the Big 12 this year, if for no other reason than Brendan Sorsby has allowed for yet another second consecutive year of just tremendous offseason content. 2025 was all about Nico Iamaleava. 2026 has been all about Brendan Sorsby. Can't wait to see what 2027 is going to be about. But to get started on today's episode of Adapt and Respond, I really want to start by talking about our G6 program. I know, right? We don't generally do a whole lot of that here. But I want to talk about a G6 program that I feel is ready to level up. And they've gone about getting the hiring right. They've gone about building through the transfer portal quickly and also trying to bank on recruiting what has been historically one of the best high school recruiting hotbeds in the country right there at home and see what they can't be. And what I am talking about is Brian Hartline's South Florida. So, there we go. Got to make sure that I click all the right buttons at the right time. Now, Brian Hartline comes to South Florida, USF, as they prefer to be called. Although your government name is South Florida, I prefer to call you by your government name. Anyway, the Bulls hired Brian Hartline, who was outstanding as wide receiver coach and offensive coordinator at Ohio State. 2 stints as offensive coordinator, one where he kind of sort of didn't have the play calling privileges, and another where he absolutely did. It's 2025. 2025 was not a bad year for Ohio State, as you very well know. Did it end the way that they wanted it to end? No, it did not. However, what Brian Hartline contributed to Ohio State last year and in the previous 7 is a run of recruiting and development at a single position that probably will not be duplicated for some time. I don't think we're ever going to see another run like the one we're having at Ohio State right now when it comes to recruiting top-tier talent and developing it into first-round NFL draft picks. That's what Brian Hartline did. He gets to Ohio State. He inherits Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and turns them into the first 2 guys to get selected in the NFL's first round at Ohio State at wide receiver since 2007. Michael Thomas hadn't done that. Santana Holmes ain't done that. We keep going down the list on this, right? Terry McLaurin ain't do that. There's a lot that we could pull from this, but a lot of it really is just how did Brian Hartline choose to change how he was recruiting, right? And I would even say that in choosing how he was recruiting, he started at the top and he said, I can develop you into what you want to be. And then you got to see the results, not just with Olave and Wilson, but also with Marvin Harrison Jr., with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Hell, Jamison Williams was wide receiver 3 at Ohio State before up and transferring to Alabama, where he became wide receiver 1. And that got him enough service to be the Blitnikoff Award winner, right? That's what it's like. And then you can look at just who they've chosen to keep and who has left them and how that turned out for the Buckeyes, right? Comes to mind, Julian Fleming, right? Left to go to Penn State. He wasn't really developing into much. That didn't work out. A couple other guys that we're still waiting to see how it goes, Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham, who both ended up at Notre Dame. We'll see how that works out. Who they've chosen to keep has been very, very important to their success and how they chose to keep them. Carnell Tate develops into a first-round talent. We know about Emeka Egbuka, right? We know about Brandon Ennis. It's questionable whether or not he's a first-round draft pick, but if he's playing the same role that Carnell Tate did last year, he's going to get lots of service and opportunities to show the NFL that he's just that good. So that guy, Brian Hartline, who won a national championship with the Buckeyes as an assistant, finally takes a head coaching job. And for a long time, it felt like Brian Hartline was not going to leave Ohio State unless it was to be a head coach in a Power 4 place, but also the kind of guy that many Buckeye fans would not mind being their head coach in some years to come. It goes that way for Ryan Day, right? We'll see. But I don't expect Ryan Day to get up out of that seat for quite some time, and Brian Hartline would like to be a head coach, right? We felt this way about Kirby Smart as defensive coordinator at Alabama for years, and it turned out the place he was waiting on to open up is his alma mater in Georgia and a sleeping giant, and it was, right? And you've seen what he's been able to do at Georgia. Now, think about Brian Hartline going to Tampa and what that can mean for the Bulls in an American where they were competitive as hell last year, so good that their former head coach, Alex Galesh, is now coaching the SEC with Auburn and brought with him most of the good players from South Florida, guys like Byron Brown, who I expect will be pretty damn good. But that has really just started to pique the interest of South Florida fans who really love what Brian Hartline is laying down, right? He gave this quote to On3, talking about what it's like to come into a place like South Florida, given the good year they had last year. They were this close to competing there at the end for a college football playoff spot and winning the American championship before it kind of just fell apart. The quote goes, "There was some success here the last couple of years, but nowhere near where it should be. The expectation should be to win. The floor here should be a constant chase for the American Conference Championship. I think we've been transparent about what those expectations are day to day, through the summer, through recruiting, and into the fall. We have 50 new guys on the roster and a completely different roster than last year. I'm excited about the guys who came in and the guys who chose to stay. I think we have the right guys, and now it's our job to maximize what they're capable of, end quote. His ambition is very clear. His ambition is to be the best team in the American Conference. And we know that the best team in the American Conference can win a bid to the 12-team college football playoff, let alone extend to 24 teams. We know this because Tulane won the American Conference Championship, and they made the college football playoff. Same thing is true of Cincinnati, who won the American Conference Championship 2021 and made the college football playoff when it was 4 teams. We also know James Madison had been able to make it from the Sun Belt. Boise State has been able to make it from the Mountain West before they changed conferences. It's doable. That's the question, right? It's doable. Yes is the answer to is it doable, but can you recruit to South Florida? And I think that's another thing that you're banking on if you are South Florida brass. You're looking at Brian Hartline and his track record of recruiting the wide receiver. And you were saying, okay, what if we just hired the best available recruiter to be a head coach? I think that's Brian Hartline. And see what else he might be able to build. And it's not as if they're just hiring a talented recruiter. We also know that he can call plays from last year. We know that he understands the offense. We'll come to find out what kind of CEO Brian Hartline is. And this is a guy that's basically spent his entire life in Ohio, right? Moving to Florida. And I think that that has to be part of the calculus here. Recruiting in South Florida is one thing as a snowbird. It's another thing to be down there all the time. Does that make you better or worse? We'll get to find out. You would tend to think it would make you better because you can get to more high school games. You can get to more high school coaches. Kids can see you more often. But I do believe it's a little bit different recruiting with South Florida on your chest as opposed to the Ohio State on your chest. And I'm already seeing somebody who's looked at the headline of this and going, okay, here's the Ohio State part of this. Yes, absolutely. There's an Ohio State part of this. Because the next question is he going to try to run the program like Ohio State runs their program? And he gave this quote: "The best form of flattery is to replicate. I'm not shy about it. I played at Ohio State for 4 years and coached there for the last decade. Also played for the Cleveland Browns. We're going to do a lot of similar things with our own touch. We're not going to fake it or pretend to be somebody we're not. But the expectations and the operation will resemble Ohio State." So I expect you'll hear a lot more of this. You'll hear a lot of this is how they would do it the Buckeyes way. Let me tell you why that's a great thing. That's a great thing because the Buckeyes have continued to be at the upper echelon of what it means to be great in college football in modern times. They have adapted the name, image, and likeness. They have adapted the transfer portal. They have continued to recruit heavily in recruiting, and they have continued to stay competitive as their league got not just larger, but more competitive and became the best conference in all of football. Now, let me tell you why that's bad. My alma mater is the University of Tulsa. Okay? Before Trey Lamb was head coach at the University of Tulsa, Kevin Wilson was. Kevin Wilson, who was once OC at Oklahoma, head coach at Indiana, and tight ends coach. We'll just go with that. Tight ends coach at Ohio State, right? He was enamored with what Urban Meyer was able to do at Florida and what Urban Meyer was able to do at Ohio State. He would open some presentations at Tulsa by showing everybody what they do at Ohio State. Now, the University of Tulsa is still the smallest FBS program operating today, consistently punching above its weight. From first-round draft picks like Tyler Smith to Bednarik and Nagurski Award winner like Zaven Collins to the 4 Pro Football Hall of Famers that come out of it, right? It's punching above its weight, which is another way of saying it's got its own pride, all right? University of Tulsa, we got our own pride. The Golden Hurricane likes to do things the way the Golden Hurricane likes to do things. Doesn't mean that you can't bring in something new. Doesn't mean that we are not going to entertain doing it differently. But trying to lay over the top of what TU, blue and gold, which could not be further from the opposite of scarlet silver, it didn't go over well. It didn't go over well with the players, didn't go over well with the administration, and the results reflected that. What I'm saying is you can't just say we're going to do it the Ohio State way. You have to find a way to make this South Florida Bulls something they can hold, something they can take ownership of, something they can cherish, so they do not feel as if they're just copying somebody else's success, because that is the easiest way to ruin someone else's confidence. That said, you could start with other examples, right? If people shut up and say, I'm sure this has happened before, we're going to do it the way Nick Saban's Alabama did it. Sure, great, fine. But there's a reason why it works for them and not necessarily for you. And that is going to be the task laying ahead of Brian Hartline and South Florida. Which leads me to what I think is the most interesting question to ask about Brian Hartline and his ambition at South Florida. Why can't South Florida be like James Madison, Tulane, Boise State, or Cincinnati, like I had mentioned before? I don't think there is a reason. I think they could make the college football playoff this year simply by putting together an 11-win season and winning the conference championship. I think they can do that. The real question to ask, though, is will an 11-win Brian Hartline South Florida team in 2026 be more competitive than its G6 predecessors? That's an open question. One of the things that I've been fascinated by is how we entertain the David versus Goliath narrative, right? We do this a lot in college football, so much so that when Cape Verde found out it was going to play Argentina in the round of 32 in the FIFA World Cup, my bosses came to me and said, hey, do you think that Cape Verde playing against Argentina is like Appalachian State playing against Michigan in 2007? Write about it, please. And I did, right? I gave this my whole brain. And I submit to you, it was not. And the reason it was not is because Cape Verde has been so-so, right? They are not a great David. They don't even have the slingshot. They don't win regularly. And generally, their call to fame is being able to stop people from scoring and get it into late penalty situations. They got a goalkeeper who was otherworldly in this World Cup at 40-plus years old. And then they scored a couple of goals and forced extra time against a juggernaut in Argentina. But before all of this had happened, Appalachian State was the number one team in the FCS when they were getting ready to play Michigan. They were the defending national champions. As a matter of fact, Appalachian State was as dominant a program in the FCS as Nick Saban's Alabama was. They won 2005, 2006, 2007, 8, 9, 10, 12 national championships. Come on, man. That is not a David. That is a ringer. And Michigan felt the full birth of that, and they lost the game 34-32 in overtime. But it wasn't to a an upstart like Cape Verde. Okay. Could South Florida be something like that in 2026? It's going to take some doing. If you drop this South Florida team into the FCS, would they be as dominant as Appalachian State, who, by the way, is coming off of like 13-1 the season when they before they played Michigan, and I think 14-1, and then went 13-2 the year that they played Michigan, right? Even beating that Power 4 university, big time Michigan. I don't know that you're asking a lot, right? Or I'm saying I don't know that you're asking too much. I think you are asking a lot. I think you got it all to do. I would also add here the difference between Cape Verde playing against Argentina is the difference between South Florida having to play from the jump against Ohio State, against Texas, against whatever team you think might be the number 2 team in the country going into this season, right? It's a lot. It's a ton, in fact. Is it worth celebrating if South Florida goes 11-1, makes the college football playoff, loses the first round by 40? I would submit to you, damn right it is, because now it is about making the playoff. And the thing for you to know is that South Florida could still be a team that made the playoff before Wisconsin, USC, Florida. Think of all these other blue bloods. that are thumbing their nose at the idea of these G6 teams getting the slot because they ain't got one. Come back, let's talk a little bit about winners and losers in college football recruiting and how I've made Texas into an absolute winner and Michigan into something like a loser. Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you are new to the channel, to the podcast, consider joining the more than 208,000 subscribers to Adapt and Respond College Football Podcast. I know that number off the top of my head because it is visible on the screen. If I had the numbers on the audio platform, I'd give them to you, but I don't. I just assume that it's doing well and you guys enjoy it. If you don't, let me know that too. Also, we're doing longer shows. Let me know what you think. So I want to talk about winners and losers as it denotes June recruiting college football this season, right? And I got a list, and I'm going to give you the order of the list that it's in because, well, I think it's important to discuss recruiting during the month of June because that is when lots of the commitments happen, especially around quarterbacks. It, generally speaking, is the most pivotal time of the year when it comes to securing high school football recruiting commitments. Now, the importance of high school recruiting has gone from an all-time high to a distant second in the age of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. I get that. But Oregon, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and even Texas have demonstrated to you you can still build a great college football roster through the transfer portal. You'd prefer to build a great college football roster through high school recruiting. And the bedrock of what you're going to do is also going to start with guys that you first offered as sophomores and juniors in high school and who have put together 5, 6, 7-year relationships with you that can somehow help lead you to where you want to go. In the case of Texas, Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Michigan, all programs I got on this list, it's to the national championship. So first on the list, as a winner, I got Texas, right? Texas picked up John Meredith III, 5-star, Ismail Kamara, a 5-star, over the past 2 weeks. And that's just 2 of the 13 total commitments it picked up in the past 4 weeks alone. There's only 22 in this class, and it ranks number 4 in the cycle right now. It's got 4 fewer commits than A&M, who ranks number 1. But if you're looking at the quality of what Texas has brought in just in the last month, it's second to none. It's a really, really great high school football recruiting class. I think most of those guys are going to stick all the way through signing. Then we'll see, right? How guys develop, how guys get playing time. If you'd have told me that CJ Baxter was going to end up transferring from Texas to Kentucky 3 years ago, maybe I'd have entertained it. But I would also tell you that CJ Baxter had fallen off, and he had. That's the reason why he ain't Texas no more, right? They brought in Hollywood Smothers. They brought in Raleek Brown. I'm saying you got room for that. But when you're landing 5 stars, generally speaking, like Easton Royal, like John Meredith, like Israel Kamara, they stick, right? They play early, they play a lot, and they generally get paid the retention for staying around. I think that is absolutely a winner in this cycle. Another winner in this cycle, University of Oregon, man. Dan Lanning has been so committed to high school football recruiting because all it does is make him competitive each and every year. From DeCorian Moore last year to Xavier Sabb this year. Now, DeCorian Moore, 5-star. Xavier Sabb, also 5-star wide receiver from New Jersey, commits just 2 days after 5-star cornerback Hayden Stepp commits to Oregon. Now, for Sabb, Oregon beat out Alabama et al. Why Alabama et al? Because Sabb's older brother Keon plays safety, starts at safety for Alabama, and his older brother Amari signed with the 2026 recruiting class at Alabama. That's a big win to not get the third brother in the offing to join you. As a matter of fact, playing with an idea of doing, who are the best brothers to ever play together, right? College football or in the NFL. We'll see about this. I'm thinking beating out Alabama for a wide receiver who's got two brothers that are essentially on the team, get you in the winner's bracket off the rip. And then look at what Xavier Sabb was able to do as a junior last year. 59 catches, 897 yards, 13 TDs. And also, defensively, 15 tackles and 4 interceptions. That got him New Jersey Gatorade Player of the Year. And, oh yeah, New Jersey. New Jersey, which has historically been one of the great football states in America. We just don't talk about it enough, right? If I start going down a list for you of guys that played football, high school football in New Jersey, you would start absolutely crapping yourself because all they do is put out dudes. And if Rutgers could just rope off the state, they would be a top 25 program every single year. Alas, they cannot do that. Now, with Sabb's commitment, we're down to just 2, at least according to ESPN, uncommitted 5-stars, right? Which means, again, June was pivotal. That's why I'm also going to look to another winner in Oklahoma. Oklahoma, who ranks number 5 in the 2027 cycle, picked up a 5-star, and the best player in the state, quarterback Gabriel Osborne. That's massive to me, particularly, not because of the Oklahoma thing, but because OU has made a habit of missing on the number 1 player in the state in years past. I was flipping tables when Josh Proctor ended up going to Ohio State. I was flipping tables when Dax Hill ended up going to Alabama, then Michigan. You got to land the number 1 player in the state. I don't give a damn what position he plays. I don't care if you're full up. He's the number 1 dude in the state. You're the best program in the state. Go recruit him. They did that this time around, and I think that is going to help them tremendously. Also picked up their first 2028 commit and flipped a commit in Trey Taliaferri. 3-star who, as a sophomore, threw for 2,200 yards. It's pretty damn good. Also, guess what state he's from? New Jersey. I'm telling you, man. New Jersey be putting them out. Now we get to the losers part of this conversation. Notre Dame, for me, is one of the losers in the June recruiting endeavor. Mostly because they lost Trey Taliaferri not a week after he committed to Oklahoma. Notre Dame will say, hey, we didn't really want him in the first place. The price is getting too high. Oh, yeah, there's 3 quarterbacks in front of him, not named CJ Carr. Maybe this ain't the place for him. Well, if that's the case, then why did you offer him? If that's the case, then why did you offer him, son? You don't be offering something you don't want, especially at the quarterback position. So miss me with that crap, all right? Oklahoma made a play to go get a dude that may have always wanted to go to Oklahoma, but Notre Dame, you can make it hard. You can make it really difficult for him to say, no, I do want to play at Notre Dame, and you didn't. And I'm going to put that on you. Last one here is Michigan, because of one statistic in particular. 2027 recruiting class, almost full for most, right, as far as commitments. Michigan does not have a single 5-star in that class. Now, do you need a 5-star to win national championships? Yes. Does Michigan need 5 stars to win a national championship? I would ask you, is J.J. McCarthy a 5-star? Then I think you answered your own question. Is Will Johnson a 5-star? Then you may have answered your own question. I also know that there is a contingent of fan out here who's going, we don't need 5 stars. We need the right guys. Fine. You get all the right guys. I'll get all the 5 stars. I will whoop your ass every single game. 10 out of 10, I'm beating that ass because stars matter. Anybody tell you that stars don't matter ain't friggin' got any. My goodness. We only talking about how stars don't matter when we ain't got them. Sit down somewhere or go get yourself a 5-star. It's still time to flip somebody. All right. We come back on the other side. I want to do some burning questions ahead of Big 12 Media Days. Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you are new to the channel, please join us as there are 208,000 subscribers to Adapt and Respond, a college football podcast. You can also catch us on Apple, Spotify, if you so choose. And if you are listening there, please leave us a 5-star review. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you'd like to see more of, and we'll try to do more of that. Also, this is a longer show. Y'all said y'all like the longer shows. I need y'all to prove it by watching the whole damn thing and making sure more people watch the show. Okay. So I want to do some burning questions ahead of Big 12 Media Days, because Big 12 Media Days begins on Tuesday, and it will begin with not anybody knowing, or excuse me, I should say, it will begin with everybody knowing what the top storyline is in the Big 12. And it is 2 words: Brendan Sorsby. Okay? Brendan Sorsby. Brendan Sorsby, for which this channel has grown tremendously, because my man chose to not just make more than 10,000 bets, totaling about 90 grand over 4 years, but making them bets while starting at quarterback at Cincinnati, while Cincinnati knew that he had a gambling account, and while he was a backup quarterback at Indiana, placing bets on his own football team. Then Texas Tech, who won him out of the portal and was reportedly paying him $5 million, went to bat for him and was going to try to ram him through college football to play this season. Until, well, Brendan Sorsby had to back out of all of it, mostly because Ken Paxton made a mistake that pissed away any leverage that they might have had to get that dude to play and forced the Big 12 to make Texas Tech into the bad guy. So going into this weekend, one of my questions is, how are the coaches going to respond to the controversy? Are they going to say, is it going to be kumbaya? We're all one family now. That's behind us. We don't want to talk about airing our dirty laundry anymore now that our dirty laundry is already dry. No, I don't know about that. Like, even Deion Sanders came out in June and was like, hey, he bet on his team. Does anybody think he should be playing college football? Like, honestly, are we doing this? Very good question. I didn't. You didn't. Some other people were making the, I think, rather ridiculous take that nobody believes that Brendan Sorsby was shaving points, to which I say, that is not the point. If he was shaving points, ooh boy, that's another degree. But if you're talking about a game like other games that depends now more on gambling than it has in years past, you don't want any of the players to have any money on the game. Matter of fact, I play a lot of chess. Let me find out my queen on the chessboard is betting one way or the other. I need a new queen. I can't trust this one no more. It's a little far-fetched and it's a little silly, but that's where we were forced to go with this story. Because the more I kept looking at the story, the more I kept going, there's no way that they're continuing to try to go down this road. Is there? And Texas Tech kept traveling down that road, trying to do his PR campaign. Brendan Sorsby doing the same thing, when the rest of us are going, hey, man, we're not into this. And more importantly, the rest of college football believe that Brendan Sorsby should not be playing football. I will be curious to find out if there's even one college football coach in the Big 12 who believes that Brendan Sorsby should have been playing in 2026. Now, next question I had is really along the lines of the new eligibility rules that come on board for the FBS, right? Because we got unanimously passed by the football oversight community the 5-for-5 rule, which means that we have basically torched red shirts. There is no more red shirting, okay? You get 5 years to play 5 years, either when you enroll or, when you turn 19. Because the idea of guys continuing to get extra years to play eligibility, get these injunctions, is gone too far. And now you're getting guys that are playing college football 25, 26, 27. And I do mean 27. It used to be BYU was the only real program that got away with this, because what happened was they would get the dude to sign and then send him on a mission, and he'd come back from that gap year and then enroll, right? And then all of a sudden you got these men with families and children playing college football. BYU did this for years. Nobody had a problem with it because there are religious bounds for doing this, right? We understand. We get it. Don't all of us like it, but when you look at the average age of their teams versus the average age of everybody else's team, it was glaring just kind of what advantage they had built for themselves. Now, I don't think that many coaches are going to be against this one, because one of the reasons the 5-for-5 came online was because you had players who would show up, see they're not going to play, or didn't want to be on the team anymore, and just say, hey, coach, I want to take my red shirt. which removes a guy from your roster that could be playing for you if need be. And if you are a coach, you got two decisions here. You can't pull the scholarship to the next year. And if they don't want to play, they don't want to play. It used to be guys did never want to take the red shirt. You always wanted to play because red shirt was just purgatory. You're at home on Saturdays. You're going through weights. Like that ain't no fun. Now it is, I'll just take the red shirt and get paid another year by somebody else. Now we're getting do away with that. Can't wait to see how coaches rejoice over that one. Another one is a topic that I've been on for, well, ever now, but more so in the last couple of years than ever before in the 2014 college football playoff. What do coaches believe about this? What do they think should happen? Because we're getting to a place now where more college football coaches are seeing the merits of a 2014 college football playoff, especially when they're coming to understand their job security might be tied to whether or not they got into a playoff. You double the field, you get more teams that could get in. Your Mark and the Big 12 have already said they agree with the Big 10. They agree with the ACC. They want a 2014 playoff. It's just about how they could get this thing done. They don't actually have to make a decision about 2014 playoff until December, but it would be interesting to see, if anything, how much easier it has become to get that to go online. We learned at Big 10 meetings that every single one of the 18 coaches in the Big 10 is for the 2014 playoff. Now, the unbalanced scheduling and what might follow from that, we're still working out, getting rid of conference championship games, for instance. But I think we're going to learn a lot more at media days about just what Power 4 coaches think about it for the 2014 playoff, and that might get us closer to it or further away. We'll see. Maybe I misread the situation, but I doubt it. The last one is, how much more are we going to see of the Big 12? And I mean that, like, honestly, because you're looking at the financials for the Big 12. They've already sold equity, right? They're in a commercial partnership with Redbird Capital that's going to provide them just $12.5 million that they can do with what they want. They got $2.3 billion in rights to Fox and ESPN to air the games through 2031. And then we might see some realignment there. But you've also got Paramount Global that just bought Warner, which means they get CBS and TNT at a time when NBC is also going to split itself up. Like, there's some big questions to be had here again. I think that's interesting. And what your Mark in particular might have to say about the future of his league, its football brand. And the last question I had is basically college football related. Is Oklahoma State the dark horse to win the conference championship in the Big 12? I think so. Given what we know about Eric Morris and North Texas last year and how he basically took the moving truck, put everybody in and didn't, took them out to Stillwater and plans to just redeploy them with Oklahoma State jerseys on. Drew Mestamaker's a dude, right? We know that Caleb Hawkins is a dude. Wyatt Young is a dude. If they can score on people like they could score last year, they can win 10 games this year. They got a couple of really difficult matchups, but Oklahoma State's everybody's darling to be great in the Big 12 this year. And then there's some guys that I just can't wait to see. Like, Houston's going to be good. Connor Wigman is back. Amari Thomas is a playmaker. And Mekhi Hughes was outstanding the last time I got to run the ball at Tulane. He didn't at Oregon. Transferred to Houston, where I expect he'll be great again. Devin Dampier might be the best player in the league, Morgan Scalley's first year. We'll see, right? And then Colin Klein is back at Kansas State with Avery Johnson in a year where he's got some things to prove to the rest of us. We'll see how this goes. I'm excited about it. Let me know what's your burning question for the Big 12 in the comments below, and I will catch y'all on the flip side. Doses.